Welcome back. Today, I'd like to go over how agencies would use a tool like Howley to not only audit and organize client workflows, but also export that and present it upward directly to the client. So client knows what issues they're having and what work needs to be done. So after you log into Howley, you're prompted to connect your HubSpot. What's really cool is that Howley gives you full access to connect to any HubSpot instance to which you are associated as either a super admin or you're given a core seat. So in my case, I'm part of quite a few HubSpot instances, and these are all clients that I'm working on. I'm going to select my test account just for the purposes of this demonstration today. But this is an opportunity to use every single client and audit every single client portal that you're a part of as you are using Howley to audit and export and figure out how everything looks. So after I select my developer test account and I choose that account, the next step is that Howley is connected directly to the HubSpot portal that you're associated with. And you can see that up here, we have the name and we can see the portal ID here. So as a very first step, what an agency may want to do is, okay, you're looking at all of these various workflows. So you have contact workflows and deal workflows and company workflows and ticket workflows. You can even click through here and you're taken directly to that screen. The way that Howley organizes workflows is we first of all look at active workflows and active workflows with connections. And that is symbolized by the purple icon here, as that has an active connection to another workflow, either through workflow enrollment, either through a property change or list management, anything like that. And what you can do is you can actually click on any workflow here and you can see that direct connection. So you can see what it started by and what it starts. From the sidebar here, you can also see the workflow name. You can see a brief description of the workflow. You can see the enrollment and the associated actions from that workflow. Under connections here, we can see that it is started by the welcome new lead. So when lifecycle stage is set to lead, then it starts the re-engagement workflow, and the re-engagement workflow also starts the workflow called send special offer via workflow enrollment. So I'll go with that in a brief moment here. From here too, you can also see enrollment stats. You can click directly using these links here. It takes you directly to the workflow that we're talking about. And that is where, if you want to go ahead and make any edits or changes, that is where you'd find that. But what we're going to do right now is, as an agency, that's all fine and dandy. But what I would like to know is how everything is connected in one go. So one thing that I can do is I can click on the all connections toggle down here and I can see how everything is connected all at once. So I'm going to do that right now. Now, it is quite messy. You get this kind of spaghetti web of workflow connections, and this is where the operations come in, because what you can do is you can start to move these workflows around and you can start to see how everything is connected at once, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And that way we can really quickly start to see, well, what's connected, how is it connected, how is everything working together, etc. So I'm going to actually just start moving some of these around. That way we can start to tell a more cohesive story. I'm going to do that here, and I'm going to move that around. I'm going to move that here. So what I'm doing now is I'm making it very easy to see what are the workflow connections. How do they look like? Where are they coming from? And so, for example, here we can see that the send special offer workflow, it has 4 inbound connections to it, and they're actually connected to other things or starting from elsewhere. So that's pretty interesting to see stuff like that. And especially if you're working across a larger client portal where they may have hundreds of workflows, well, this is your opportunity to really quickly see how everything is connected via upstream or downstream, what's starting what and via what. So once I've pulled everything apart here and once I've moved it to a section that I like, I can then dive into each individual workflow and I can start to really figure out how things are connected. So if we're starting here with the became new lead, we can see that it's connected with lead status being new. And I can go in on a one by one as well, right, to look at it. So when form is submitted, when any form is submitted, we're setting the lead status to new. Well, what happens then is that we're welcoming this new lead. Okay, that's interesting, right? So we're waiting for 5 days. We're setting the life cycle stage to lead. We're even sending an email campaign. But then what happens after that is they are enrolled in a re-engagement workflow, because when life cycle stage is any of lead and their score is greater than 10, they may receive an email on the Wednesday. And then after that, well, we can see that they're actually being enrolled in another workflow, which is the send special offer workflow. But the send special offer workflow is also being started by, and these are some test workflows here just to show, but there are 4 additional workflows flowing into the send special offer. So if you're an agency and you are opening up a client portal for the very first time, this is really interesting for you to know, because what happens if a lead stage is set to new or lead status? What happens if a lifecycle stage is set to MQL or SQL? Where are these things happening and what's flowing through? And Howley makes that really easy to see. If I zoom out here on the canvas, I could turn on the all connections again. And this is another opportunity, right, to get a clear view of how everything is looking now. Obviously, this is great to know internally, but as you're preparing to present this upwards and to talk directly to client as you have audited their portal, one thing you may want to do is you may want to either export it as a PDF, or you may even export it to Lucidchart directly. So there is export functionality right here where we can export it as a PDF. But one thing that I'd like to go over now is actually how to export it to Lucidchart. So as we can see, we have all of these connections now. If you are not in operations or you're not in marketing, it might be a bit overwhelming. And especially as a client, you're like, okay, well, we need to fix this, right? And we need to figure out how everything is flowing together. And one way to do that is exporting directly to Lucidchart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click export, and then it provides a file. I'm going to save that file right here. And then when I go into Lucidchart, I simply click on new, and I go new blank document. And from here, nope, that is wrong. I'm going to go to Lucidchart right here, Lucid app. And then I'm going to go new. I'm going to Lucidchart. And then I'm going to import that workflow directly into Lucidchart. And now once I do that and view the document, what's really cool is that everything that is seen in Howley is translated one-to-one over to Lucidchart. So that includes the names of the workflows, the direct connections, and this is your opportunity to bring this to client, move things around, right, and see the downstream and upstream connections of all the workflows. So once you have done that, another next step you may want to do is when you are back in Howley, you can even look at your health assistant. And the health assistant is a really neat tool because it looks at all of your current workflows or all the client workflows that they have in their portal. And it actually gives you immediate information about, okay, well, there are some workflows that haven't been updated in the last 6+ months. There are some workflows that are active, but there's no connections associated with them, so they're just orphaned. And then there are some that are just empty. And if I click on any of these tabs right here, I can actually click directly on the workflow and it'll take me to where that is. And then I can click in HubSpot and okay, I can go, great, this workflow is no longer needed. I can probably go ahead and deactivate and remove that. In a similar way, another way a agency may use Howley is to look at, well, what happens if I want to upload a lead list, or I want to change a status, or somebody MQLs. Well, what happens? And that's where we built in the Impact Analyzer. And the Impact Analyzer looks at your dedicated HubSpot portal, grabs all the necessary information, right? So be it anything that's associated with the workflows, So be it properties, be it stage changes, be it list management, or even workflow enrollment, what the impact analyzer is it'll tell you exactly what changes if you make any changes to any of these things. So, for example, I can type in lead status, and we can see that lead status affects 3 workflows. And if I click on lead status here, we can see that lead status triggers a enrollment to 1 workflow, and then it modifies 2 additional properties within a workflow. So if we go triggers enrollment, we can see that the new lead, when status is any of lead, it triggers this first email, which is welcome new lead. But if I go back to Impact Analyzer, I can also see that it modifies these properties. And so if I go to, for example, Open Deal Test, we can see that when lead status is empty, and they submit a form and they're enrolled into this workflow, we actually set the lead status to Open Deal. So what's interesting about that is, okay, that might be something an agency could look at and go, well, that doesn't seem quite right. It shouldn't be like that. And that is how you're able to analyze the impact from within the workflow, either as to what's triggering what, or what might modify a property, in this case, the lead status. The other example here that we didn't look at would be the become new lead. So evidently, right, they submit a form. We then set their lead status to new. So this has nothing to do with a lead being already with that new lead status. This has something to do with they submit a form. The workflow automatically assigns the lead status to new. So if you're an agency, this is really important information for you to know, and especially if you're working across 5, 10, 15, 20 HubSpot instances, you may not know or always know all these things. And as you're working through the client workflows in the client portal, and you're using the health assistant, you're using the full connection view, you're using the impact analyzer, what you can do to gather documentation for this is you can export all of this information. So you can export the workflow view directly to Lucidchart or in PDF. You can export the health checker directly as a CSV, right? So this is all information that you can use for your documentation. This is all things that will help an agency as they're working across multiple client portals in keeping everything neat and tidy, and also creating net new workflows and net new documentation. As you're working through this, what Howley does is, because it's connected directly to the portal ID, as any changes are happening in HubSpot, they're reflected directly in Howley. So for example, if we're taking a look at the add engaged to list, we can see that there are 2 workflows being triggered with the engaged list nurture list. We can actually, if we go to this workflow right here and say when in list engage list nurture, if we go into this workflow today and we remove this trigger altogether, we say, okay, delete that group, and then we're going to save that. And then we go back to Howley and do a quick refresh. We can see that it was refreshed. If I click on Engage List Nurture here, all of a sudden, it's no longer associated with the Add Engaged to list. So really interesting, right? That everything is updating in real time, and it's your opportunity as an agency to really support client work and net new engagement and anything that goes into that. And that is how the agencies that are using Howley today are looking through each individual client to figure out where to improve, what's the missing piece, and what can we do to present upward to the client. I really hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, do reach out anytime. I'll leave the link in the description.